Hi, everybody. It's Alie, and
And me, Raven. Hello. Hi.
we're back for another Death and Tarot workshop. This month, we're working on intuitive reading and all that entails, the how-tos, the why-fors, and the wherefore. I don't know. I just started going with that and lost track.
Um, yeah, we I want to tell you. I want to tell you all what's going on because it's new for us and it's also a disclaimer, but I also think it's giving us permission to have fun. Allie and I normally kind of plan out what we're going to talk about on these workshops.
Rigorously. We plan rigorously.
In terms of like, okay, Allie's gonna intro and then pass it to me to talk about this thing, and then I pass it to her to talk about the other thing. We don't have that today. We've got nothing.
We're going intuitively, friends.
It just was not that kind of week or day that we could plan this. So before we go too far into our wandering and meandering, I think the first thing that we have to do is talk about what is intuitive reading and what is not, and why everything is okay no matter how you read.
Yes. So I'm going to start off with my feels. So I feel like, and this might come across as kind of pushy, I feel like every single reader is an intuitive reader. My reason being that non-intuitive reading, to me, looks like working very, very strictly by definitions and by systems and not deviating from what the Little White Book or whether it's the Thoth system with the Golden Dawn setup or if it's the Rider-Waite-Smith definitions, that regardless of what system you're working with, you stick strictly to those meanings. That's kind of hard to pull off on like every reading, I think, because that's a lot of, like, for me, it's just like that's a lot of memorization. And I think that's like the sticking point for people who are learning tarot. It's just like, oh my gosh, I have to memorize all of these cards. And so in the process of learning, we automatically learn to read intuitively because we start looking at the images and asking ourselves, how does this make me feel? What does this remind me of? And it moves away from, the death card means transformation and change, big period, to the death card makes me feel like it reminds me of confession. It reminds me of renewal. It reminds me, like building in all of these other feelings. And like, I mean, death card even means, like, to me, like, especially this one. I mean, look at this guy. This is kind of a party card. Also awesome that it's the one that I pulled for today with today's workshop, Death and Tarot, go team. But like, there's a lot of positivity to me in this card, and it being like almost a joyful thing that it's like, we're gonna ride away from all of this noise, huzzah. So that's not really in the book. And it's when you move away from the book definitions and the strict definitions that you become an intuitive reader. And I think this happens very, very naturally for every single reader, that even if you are working directly from a book right in front of you, which is totally cool, there's going to be a reading where you read the definition and you go, no, that's not what this is. And that's going to come from not just experience, but also, listening to your querent and fitting it within the spread. And then there's going to be that little voice in the back of your head, especially for me with the whole, like, my thing's clairaudience. So I hear people telling me, no, not happening.
Yes, I want to backpedal just a little bit to say that, well, okay, you have a soapbox later that pertains to this. But, I see it a lot, especially in the tarot community, Tumblr in specific, that how you read can tend to be turned into sort of a badge. Like, I am an intuitive reader, and here's my badge, and this is my camp. And a lot of people feel very badly when they're first learning tarot, or even if they've been reading it for a very long time, and they don't consider themselves or know if they're reading intuitively or think they can read intuitively. And then there's this divide. I can like see it happening. I see people sitting down on the other side of this invisible line and saying, you know what, I don't read intuitively. I go by the meanings of the cards, and I give great readings. And that is true. You do not have to read intuitively to give a good reading. You kind of already covered like what is intuitive and what isn't, but I want to just to hammer home the point. Maybe? Okay, so a non-intuitive reading means that when you see this card, I'm freaking email pop-ups and I can't see what if it's showing. Okay. Is that when you pull this card, you always get the meaning that the card gives you, either on its title or in the book. So every time I see this card, whatever the client, whatever the situation, it means struggle. That is I don't want to call it non-intuitive. I want to say it's a reading that leaves out intuition. That makes sense?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how I would frame that kind of reading, because it seems like a very studious, it seems like a very, I think I used the word didactic earlier, but I'm not 100% sure I'm using it right.
Yeah, there's got to be a better, I don't like the word non-intuitive.
Yeah, because it seems like it's excluding rather than just being something different.
I think it's just something different.
It is just something different. It is, I don't even want to go with traditional because I don't know.
I don't know that that's traditional either.
Anyway, the book
Taking
learning.
Suggestions.
Book, please let us know what you think this should be called, because the word is escaping both of us. Mm-hmm. There's definitely a word. There's definitely a word that covers the book defined and like system defined definition following method.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I see it as like almost the swords. Like this is the suit of swords method, whereas like intuitive in its most extreme state is the suit of cups, and that like arguments could be made for like in between being pentacles or wands, depending on like what your style is. And of course, I just did that. I totally just did that.
Oh, by the way, we have someone in the chat.
Lovely. Hi.
Hi, Morgan.
Oh, hi, Morgan.
Great suggestion here. Objective. Objective reading.
Yes, totally. It's objective reading because it's like without any
subjective opinion, feeling, thought at all. It's objective. It says, here's the object, and this is what it says, and that's what it is.
100%. Morgan, you're a magician.
Love it. Okay, so there is nothing wrong or less than about objective reading as compared to intuitive reading. We just want to make that abundantly clear. And just because we are talking about intuitive reading and how you can do it doesn't mean that if you're happy doing objective readings, that you shouldn't keep doing it. We are doing this because we wrote Cartomancy Competency because some people don't want to read objectively. Some people want an intuitive reading experience for themselves, for their clients, whatever the case. So that's just the party line. I feel it needed to be stated so that we didn't get anyone jumping down our throats about, oh God, I'm not even going to go there. But.
It's okay. All right. But what's really great about doing intuitive readings is that you get to do both. You like this, just it's another layer. It's not like I'm sure there are some readers who never ever learned the systemized defined meanings that have always been 100% intuitive. But I think you'll find a lot of people fall in the middle, where it's just like, you know what, we start off with books, we learn the meanings, and now reading intuitively is like this extra layer, and it adds more fun. I just think it's more fun. And like there are arguments that can be made that, you know, intuitive, psychic, definitions of words, what does all of this mean? I'm hand waving a lot. Sorry. Anyway. But it's all just more that you can add to your tarot practice. And isn't that fun?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm here, because this is just fun.
Yes. So now that I think we've made it pretty clear. Yeah.
Yes. And also awesome objective reading. I love that so much. I love that we've got a word for it now instead of just our random description. But yes, so on the note of what is intuitive reading, how do we intuitively read? And this is where we sort of split. On most topics, Raven and I have separate viewpoints, and this one is obviously no different.
Per usual. Okay, Alie.
As per usual, yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to start off with mine, and that is I have a very associative standpoint. As we're going to go into way more detail later, Raven is a total fan of the pathworking method for building intuition and working with the cards. I can't do it, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this workshop, was because it'd be kind of neat for me to learn something new too from this whole thing. But the way that I build my intuition, the way that I work with the cards to, like I was describing it earlier, that I want to grab as many different little pieces, little ideas, thoughts, impressions, even people and situations, that each card, every single card, has like a separate pool of inspiration that I've hung on to and, you know, collected in my tarot journals, and think about when I'm walking down the street and, you know, text message people being like, oh, this is so King of Swords. Just little ideas that I've put in this pool, so that each time I do a reading, it's like sifting gold. You got your pan and you're in your giant stream and it's full of gold and you're sifting it up, but you don't know which piece you're going to get. So like every time I put down the card, depending on every single thing that goes into a reading, from the setting to the person I'm reading for, me or someone else, to what incense I've got playing, what story's been told to me about this reading, what feelings I'm getting in my heart that day, I will grab a different piece of gold each time. So every reading, even though they start off with the definitions as being like a trigger for a memory, it's like how like scent is the strongest sense connected to memory. It's like each card I've been developing into like a sense on its own. So that I want to make each card stronger than my sense of smell, that each time I see a card, it makes me think of something. Also, some of my cards do have a smell because they're older. So it's like, that's a whole other bag of cats right there.
So I have a question.
Yes.
For the sake of having a question. How? Okay, give us an example of an associative reading. I understand. Again, I'm.
It's okay. I just grabbed my cards.
Playing the student here.
Give me a question, darling. Or if our viewer has a question.
Oh, no one in the chat has any questions. But I mean,
okay.
Like, okay, you see this card, and what are you just pulling from your bank of associations to take the meaning?
So I can't even see, just because of the camera, I can't see which card exactly that is. So
you pull a card. You pull a card.
No, you hold this up. That's perfect. Hold that up. Okay, maybe this is not perfect. Make big. No. Okay, I'm going to have to pick a card. Sorry, dear.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. So I've got my Six of Cups. I just drew it. So let's say I'm talking to somebody about working through something. And I'm going to see this. And so I'm going to know in my head that this has a lot to do with like childhood, that it has a lot to do with like children. It has a lot to do with nostalgia. But I'm going to look at this card in particular and I'm going to see this great tea set. And I'm going to be reminded of wonderful memories, like those fun moments, those sweet moments. And it's just like, okay, so if you're working through, say you're working through the end of a relationship and this card comes up, instead of just being like, you need to work on some shit from childhood to help address this situation, I'm going to be like, hey, maybe you could think about the good moments and let the sweetness be okay.
Okay.
So it's, so with the 5 of Swords, so we've got this dog. Just like for me, every time I see a dog, I'm just like, wah! So that association right there is something. So it's like a little helper trying to like give us our space to figure out what the hell just happened in this fight. So this is somebody holding space and like making room for the conflict and letting it be okay.
So it is a very personal. It's not, what do I associate swords with? In a general sense, it is more,
right.
More
well,
personal.
But it could be. I think that what's really interesting is that each person, and this is why I love tarot, is that each reader will bring completely different ways of looking at the cards and building their association. So it could be that that person is going to look at the Knight of Coins and be like, okay, shield, and get really specific about one symbol and bring that game to the interpretation, rather than my storytelling method and like the way that I'll construct a story from the scene and like it'll remind me of movies and books and situations that I've been. So I go very storytelling style, but intuitively you can go, your style can be expressed in any way from your personality, just the way that you are and how you talk and how you relate to things. Just because I relate with the story doesn't mean that everybody else does, right?
We have a question for you.
Excellent.
From Morgan, Alie, do you ever find that your associations are too narrow for certain cards? Like you don't have enough for one card? You know, like you don't have enough built up.
Yes. And you know what? And that will always happen, I think. I think that is something that is a feeling that just doesn't go away, because tarot is one of those things that is like, I'm always going to be a student, that there will always be a situation where I will pull a card and just be like, what the hell do I do with this? And it's not a lack of my study. It's not, you know, I'm not a good tarot reader. It's just in this moment, I have to draw deep to find that piece of gold.
So, do you happen to know of any cool ebook out there or something?
Well, it's so funny you would ask, Raven. That's the thing. That is just, it's part of my like mindset of always being a student. Okay, so since I started working with this deck, I've been stalked by this stupid page of coins, because it's like, yes, I know I'm always a student, thank you. So I'm always looking for places where I can build up those associations, and it's never going to stop, because I'm going to forget way more about tarot than I ever remember. And so that's why Cartomancy Competency, our ebook that we released earlier this year, was it this year?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember. It was earlier this year, right? Yeah.
It was in January.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's amazing. We've got how many exercises in there? Like every exercise has variations 30. And
there are 30 exercises.
Yeah, so it's just, and it's like $5. Anyway, plug. But that's the thing, is that like brains are not perfect. Intuition is not perfect. I'm not perfect. So it's important for me, and I think that it's important for any reader to remember that building up your stream is a constant. Like building your pool, putting things into your pool is constant, because stuff's going to settle at the bottom and you'll just forget about it. Like, I might, like the Queen of Pentacles meant something really specific to me when I first started reading. And it will always be a reminder to do my laundry. But it's just like there's those meanings have sort of fallen away as I've built up more.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answered. That was kind of like a bend and wiggly. Yes, I do sometimes have too narrow meaning for my cards. The moon right now is confounding the ever-loving piss out of me. I cannot come up with a solid meaning for the moon. And it used to be one that I was so confident in, and I felt like I could look at it and just like draw anything from it. Now when I look at the moon, I'm just sort of like,
okay. Any other questions from the chat regarding associative intuitive reading? I will tell you, I've had a kind of different not system, a different approach to associative reading.
excellent. Go team.
But I think it might be because I've got my foot halfway in the door for pathworking anyway.
I love it.
For me, first, that did help because I have that problem where I have very specific associations for some cards and have a hard time finding more. I think the only real fix for that is to keep working with them.
Yeah. And honestly, if I come across a card, like I've had a moon card sitting on my altar for like a month because it's just been so frustrating to me. There is something I need to work on with it. And so it's just when I come across those cards that are like, ha 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 ha, ha you don't know anything. I work with them. It's that invitation to keep working with them.
Mm-hmm. I take back everything that I was saying before. I'm pathworking.
Sorry? You're pathworking?
Yeah, I'm not doing associative reading.
I love you so much. Okay, Raven, I really want to learn how to pathwork because I feel like I'm missing out on an avenue here. So can you explain pathworking?
Oh, I'm gonna try, and I know this is going to be publicly available on YouTube soon, so I guess a disclaimer. I sort of understand the generally accepted idea of pathworking. I watched Four Queens, Kelly Maddox. I watched her
she's boss.
YouTube video on it. After you told me, you were like, this is what you do, right? And I was like, So I went to go look it up and double check because I wasn't even really sure. And from my understanding, generally accepted understanding of pathworking, for some people, it is a very meditative, really intense practice. Like it involves serious meditation and stepping into a card.
And that's the part that's always sort of blocked me off because my visualization ability is limited. Like I can imagine things to a point. Like I can, when I'm in meditation, imagine I've got a set of wings and examine them, but that's about as far as I can go. Like there's not a lot, like I feel like I can't reach out in visualization, and I don't think I'm the only person. If I am, that's fine. Screw all y'all. I'm gonna learn.
I don't feel that reading in a pathworking sense requires 30 minutes with one card and meditation. I don't feel that way. For me, it's almost instantaneous. I will say I really struggled in the beginning to read intuitively, period. The first couple weeks, maybe month that I was working with tarot, every time I had to go to the book, I wanted to throw myself out the window because for me, it was just my baggage, my issues. I needed to read intuitively. and when you need to do something, it's harder to do it. So of course I was.
Yes. Oh, come on. I've got to be perfect at everything I do as soon as I try to do it. Do you know how hard it is to like have that page of coins show up every freaking reading?
Yeah. So I will never forget my breakthrough happened. Um, who was it? Tarot Girl Next Door, I think.
Yeah, I think you mentioned her to me before.
She has somewhere, it's like buried on her site too. I don't think it's even super easy to find. It's like a 5-minute guide walkthrough. It's an audio clip about how to look at a card and read it. And I don't remember half of what is in this little like 5, 10 minute, 15-minute maybe audio clip. All I remember is that when she said, look at the card and breathe, that was it. That was the moment. And to this day, anytime that I'm looking at a card and I don't immediately know what it means or if I have a feeling for it, stop and breathe. Oh, you saw the dog.
I saw Yuki. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Stop and breathe. It's I did some training with another card reader a little while ago, and I did a live reading with him. And as I was doing it, I was reading colors, you know, no, I mean, there were keywords, but I was ignoring them, just colors, looking only at a color to get a entire story.
Gosh.
Yeah, but that was it. I paused on one and I stopped and I breathed, and he goes, "Oh, you're breathing into the card," and I was like, "What?" So apparently it's a thing, and now you know about the thing.
Just breathe into the card.
Breathe into the card, and I'll go. Yeah, just like that. I'll go a little more in depth with that. And I also want to backtrack because that's not the whole thing that goes on with path working. First, though, I kind of want to ask, have you ever, I'm going to ask you, Alie, and anyone in the chat, if you've ever seen a painting or a piece of artwork and felt something?
Oh gosh, yes. Although I'm going to point out that most of the time when I'm looking at art, I need someone to point out that there's the possibility for feeling with it.
Oh, interesting.
But yes, like Raven, you have seen me like as we're going through artwork, just like completely freak out and be like, this. I don't know what I'm feeling, but I love it.
Yeah. That is sort of the principle behind, sorry for all the racket, everyone.
You cannot stop the Yukester. Yuki just is doing what Yuki's gotta.
My wonderful husband brought me pizza because he knew I didn't have time to eat dinner. Aww. So I guess he thought I could eat it while I was talking to you guys. No. I can't.
Still sweet. Still sweet. Jamie's been banished. He's not even allowed in the apartment right now. I've had it with his division playing ways.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So sorry to get sidetracked. All right. If you can look at a piece of art, at a picture, and feel something, start there. And treat the card like the piece of art that you're looking at, you know, like it's hanging on a wall, and just go with the feeling that you get. I also, being primarily clairvoyant, I look to see how the picture changes. Or and I'm sorry that I'm having such a hard time explaining this. There are like 4 or 5 different ways that you can go about the whole path working thing. First of all, breathing is involved with all of them, because when you are focused on breathing, and this is true for pretty much every single intuitive, psychic, mediumship, whatever platform, without breathing, energy has nowhere to go. You aren't giving yourself the energy you need, and it's like you've got a dead battery. So when you breathe, you keep the circuit open, and I know I'm harping on this, but just you can try it, trust me.
Breathe into the card. Start with feeling.
Yeah, start wherever you feel like you should start. You could start with a feeling, like,
okay.
Like, for example, just right now, looking at this card, if I'm starting from feeling, I guess it's not really clear whether this is dawn or sunset or could even be sort of midday with the way that the hill is. But to me, it feels like dawn. I look at this scene and I feel dawn is breaking. Are you following me so far?
I'm following. I'm thinking about dawn. I'm thinking about that like cold blue light that comes after the like dark purple on the horizon, where you're like, is there actually going to be like, there's that moment where I don't know, maybe I'm crazy established, but it's just like where I'm not sure if the sun's coming up or not because it gets so dark, and then all of a sudden it's just like that blue, that like really cold blue breaking through that dark purple.
Nice.
That's what I was thinking of when you were telling me about dawn.
So that feeling, that's part of the meaning of this card for me in this moment, for whoever I'm reading for. And then oftentimes what I ask, it helps if you ask yourself, and I call it a soft question, just humor me. I call it asking a soft question. So breathing, asking myself the soft question, what do I feel? And then that's where I kind of zeroed in on dawn and the feeling of being outside when dawn is breaking. And then I asked myself, where is the client? Or where is the querent? Because that's just my experience. And in each card, your querent is either one of the figures or one of the...
Or looking at it, okay, you know what? Actually, I do that a little bit with the zombie tarot in particular. I'm grabbing it because I want it. It's a very good deck for that sort of interpretate, or like that sort of questioning, because there's always, like, it's not always, in many of the cards, it's almost a combatant situation, that it's just sort of like, is it the zombie hand? Is my querent the zombie hand, or is it the human hand? I would rarely look from the perspective of like, are they watching this scene? Because it's such an in-depth sort of like, so are they being eaten or are they the eaters? So like zombies are humans, people. And that can change through the reading, that it might be like in this card, they're the zombie, but in this card, they're the human. So.
And when you ask yourself that question, if there is only one figure, the answer is not always... You know, if I ask myself, where's the querent? It's not always this little bird. Sometimes I ask, where's the querent? And I hear, this is their mother, or this is their father, or this is their friend. So they can be outside of the card completely. They can be related to an element in the card. You know, sometimes it's like, where's the querent? This is their career. It's like... hard to explain.
It's really interesting. Oh, I think you're doing a really great job of explaining it. So take it, breathe into it, and stop judging yourself.
All right, there's more. Okay. So it's this weird scattershot approach. Like, you breathe, you ask yourself where the querent is, you ask yourself what the feeling is. And what I also do is I kind of, it's like I mentally, just a quick question that I want to answer. Could the querent be an observer of what's happening in the card? Yes, I feel so. A lot of the time, what I do is I push play on the card.
So, that dude's going up in flames.
I imagine that this was a scene that was paused, like literally paused. And then if I hit play, what happens? And I immediately know, like, oh, all the fire is going to die down, or he's going to collapse, or he's going to go up in bigger flames. And it's different every single time for every querent and every card. I keep thinking back to when I read with my deck, my Fairy Nature Oracle deck.
Hang on, I've got it right here.
That is primarily how I get a message from those cards. So I kind of push play, and I'm thinking about the bird card in specific.
The hummingbird?
Nope, the other birds.
Oh,
yep,
hang on.
Yep, that one.
That one? Yeah, sorry, I've got bird like all of the birds are at the top for me.
Yeah. I was doing a live reading
So
with
cute.
these cards for someone. And I was nervous, so I was kind of just going to my book meetings, my objective meetings for the card, and then I was like, no, Raven, stop. So I breathed, and I looked at the card, and I realized that bird is not going to open its mouth and chirp. That bird is dead silent, and if I press play, he's just going to sit there. He's not going to open his mouth. Whereas with another client, maybe he'd start singing, or he'd fly away, or more birds would join him.
Using your deck, the one that like immediately I'm looking at it and I feel like I'd be able to use this technique with no problem is the forest.
Press play, what's happening?
Yeah, so it's like the sun could go down and trapped in the woods with no way out. And how freaking terrifying that is to not know where to go. Like, has anyone gotten lost in the woods? Like, it's horrific. Or, you know, the sun moves higher and it becomes like a beautiful hike through this like idyllic experience, and like feeling the leaves crunching beneath your feet and hearing the birds sing and like watching squirrels and stuff. So yeah, this is one that like immediately evokes that for me, that it's like I could totally see the scene moving forward.
Yes. So I do have to say, I have to talk about mediumship. I have to.
You can break into the mediumship, okay? It's like, okay. You have permission, darling.
Great, thank you. Because mediumship relies on the psychic senses, the clairabilities, clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairaudience, etc., clairsentience. Shoot, what was I going to say?
I was talking about the trees and the thing moving forward and being lost and it being...
Yes. Okay, here's the thing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Whether you're learning to do psychic readings or energy readings or mediumship readings, one of the first things that you're taught is that it's going to feel like you're making it up.
Oh, yes.
It's going to feel like you're using your imagination, and it's all just a product of you controlling the thing. And this is how pathworking feels. It feels like you're making it up.
See, and now, okay, this is where we could go into a completely different conversation, because I have been playing with this idea in my head that there is this idea of elevation and like almost degradation of certain words, certain ways they are used within the community, and the way that we describe things. Words have power, first of all. Second of all, we give them that power. So it's like, I've been recognizing that when I sit and imagine something, and I can actually imagine it, that is no different than manifesting, like the way that manifestation works, because I work with the manifestation model of magic. That's not the right way to phrase it, but like I use manifestation a lot in my magic. And there's this sense that it's like, it's almost like an in to tell myself that, you know, Alie, you're being so stupid. This is fake. Why are you doing this? It's like so phony. You're just imagining things. And it's that phrase right there. You're just imagining things. It makes me want to go back and punch every mom who's ever said that to a kid who's seen a ghost. And to like, I mean, I get why they would do it, because it scares them and because they don't want to like traumatize their kids. But at the same time, it's like, you're just imagining things has been used to like also gaslight children, to be like, oh, we weren't fighting all night. You know, your dad and I weren't fighting all night. You're just imagining things. You know, your brother doesn't hate you. You're just imagining things. And it's like, these are the kind lies that we're told. They're the kind lies that we're told. And I'm drawing my line in the sand. There will be no more kind lies. Just imagining does not exist. If you're imagining something, it is there in your brain for a freaking reason.
It's real. And that's why it is so hard for people to accept that they are already intuitive, psychic, mediums, everything, all of it. Okay?
We just got on our big old soapboxes. I said when we first were like getting ready for this, I was like, soapboxes are welcome, because I know we both have really strong feelings about this stuff. That I spent a lot of my time in my early tarot career, like even like just a year ago, being like, I'm not psychic. I'm not psychic. And you, Raven, have been watching this journey with like bemusement the whole time, because it's the word. It's the power given to the words and like our own baggage that we carry to them. So how many times was I told I'm just imagining things, when really what's happening, and like this is, I think this is part of my problem with visualization, is that I feel like I'm just imagining things. So I put that block up already. And I mean, those times when I have had very clear, clairaudient messages, when I've been writing and it's been almost automatic writing on the keyboard, and like I'm just typing stuff out for a reading, and I'm just like, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, and I can't remember writing it. Like, you're just imagining things.
Screw that.
Bah. Bah. Anyway.
Oh.
Okay, I think maybe, sorry?
No, I'm just gonna say you're not the only one. We've got it's just your imagination is how I psych myself out of a lot of stuff also.
It happens. It's real. And it's just like, you know, I think we could use this moment as an invitation to like, why doesn't everybody present here with us and watching this later take some journaling time in your tarot journal, because y'all know how much I love tarot journals, and ask, what do you feel about the word imagination? What do you feel about the word visualization? What do you feel about the word intuition? And what do you feel about the word psychic? Mm-hmm. Those 4 words, I think, are very tightly linked and mean very similar things once they get down to it. But we put a lot of pressure on them. Psychic could carry baggage around like, I don't want to be seen as a fraud. I don't want to be seen as someone who's like all hippy dippy and like, you know, crystals, and I don't want to be seen as new age hippie aunt who drinks only kombucha and green things or fruit, and like, you know, like there's so much that like can be put on that one word. Sorry, did I just break something? I'm going into rant mode. I'm so sorry.
Oh my god.
Anyone who is offended by what I'm saying right now, just understand this is my personal baggage, not my actual opinion.
I love you if you drink kombucha and green things.
I make kombucha, all right? I put that in there specifically because I make kombucha. Do you know how many scobies are in my freezer right now? Because I run out of brewing space.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, but yes. Just work with your feelings for those words and try and understand where that came from, why you have them, and how that might be limiting you from, so for example, me just freaking looking at my card and letting the scene go play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I missed, it's looking for the feeling in the card or what it does to you. It's asking yourself, where is the querent? Outside, inside, related to, not here at all, and pressing play. I'm trying to look at some more cards and see if I've got more for you. You should talk, Alie.
I'm sorry, I started looking at my cards too. Oh gosh. Yeah, it's like, it's very interesting. It's really interesting. I think how, I mean, like these two methods, like we're presenting them as separate, but really it's like they're sides of a coin, I think. And I guess that we're presenting them that way too, that it's like, these are the two sides of the intuitive coin. Like, I even felt like when I was looking at that forest card, I felt the same feelings that I get when I'm doing associations. Because I felt like I was letting that story come forward that I would tell from like looking at the picture and like letting a memory surface. So that's really interesting how like it pings that same feeling, and that feeling that like comes up when that happens, that's our intuition.
Yeah, and I want to add one last thing to the whole intuitive reading, especially with path working. And God, I'm just gonna say it.
Do it.
If you can, if you read intuitively, if you get feelings, if you get words, or if you see movement, or you imagine, visualize movement, those are clear abilities. And you can call yourself whatever you want. I'm not going to call you a psychic or a medium. You can call yourself whatever you want. You're in that realm of stuff because
come party with us. It's fun.
and I realize now just how linked those things are, because I wanted to give you a little more for like how to path work. And I realized looking at this card, and I said to myself, okay, so if I was reading this right now, what would I be doing? I would be asking a million questions. And it's the exact way that I go about doing a mediumship reading. You don't get an answer unless you ask a question. So I'd start asking, like, how does she feel? How does he feel? Is there anything else in those cups? Is there anything between their hands?
Who made those plaid pants?
Sure. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Like, is there a romantic feeling here? Your brain will supply the questions that will get you the answers for a reading. They will. And I'm kind of happy I picked this card because I read for my brother, and this card came up, and I blew his mind. He doesn't tell me anything about his personal life, and I literally did a reading to him to prove to him that it was real. Like, that's a real no-no, but I did it. I was feeling feisty, and I was like, just let me read for you. Let me show you that this is not a joke. And
those are the best.
Yeah. And it was just in asking questions about this card that I got really detailed information about him that I didn't know.
And that's something too, is that like I know that there's a lot of like, I'm giving a free, like one free card reading, so single card reading for free. And it's just like, okay, well, how much can you get from a single card?
A lot.
So much. Okay, I didn't even see which one. 3 of coins. Okay, dudes, like, so much you can get from this. Like, I see a church. I see construction. I know because of 3 that there's a community sense going on. I'm looking at this dude without a head, and I'm just like, where did his head go? Why doesn't he have a head? Where is his head? That's what's cool about this deck in particular, because there's no heads in some of them and heads in other ones, and it's just like, what the hell's up with the heads? Anyway, so it's like the further you go into the cards, and like I do the questioning thing too, that it's like, what's behind that door? So it looks kind of like a church. Is it a reconstructed condo? Is someone like refurbing their home? Like, it can get that detailed, right? And it can go even deeper, and it can be like, hyper specific. And there have been times that I've given hyper specific single card readings and been like, well, this is obviously fake, and the person has gotten back to me just like
trust yourselves, people.
Yeah. And that's what I think that's actually the big message that I've got for this whole thing, is that like, yes, we are bringing our meanings out of our brains. In the famous words of Albus Dumbledore, that doesn't mean it's not real. Just because it's in your mind, Harry, doesn't mean it's not real. I'm sure I'm not perfectly quoting, but it's close enough. Like, yeah, that's my message.
Opening up for questions.
Yeah, we managed to soapbox our way and teach our way through 50 minutes there, guys. I'm really excited. I'm going to try your methods. I'm going to add that to my journaling tomorrow morning. I just had to throw it out there.
You're probably already doing it, just not recognizing.
Yeah, and I think that's something that maybe a lot of people do too. And it's just like, again, the power of the words. So it's like we're not recognizing that, like, oh, I'm already doing that. That's cool. Okay, cool. I've got a word for it now. Maybe I can learn more about it based on this word. Exciting, exciting.
Yeah, so if you, I think there was a little confusion. Katsy thought that we were doing a pathworking video or a blog post. No, we are not.
Sorry.
But Kelly Ann Maddox, Four Queens?
Yes, they do. I think the whole thing that we wanted to do was talk about intuitive reading and different ways of doing intuitive reading and like helping to workshop out any issues that might come up around intuitive reading.
I'm sorry, Katsy. I'm really sorry that we're not doing. I mean,
You kind of did. You kind of did. With your hints around how to do pathworking Raven styles.
Yeah. I would definitely recommend checking out Kellyanne's
100%. 100%. It's great.
Okay, a few things. First, I just want to say how happy we are, and I already know that Alie will be happy about this, that someone Jen thought they weren't a super intuitive reader, but now realizes they're more intuitive than they thought.
Yeah! Yeah! Welcome to the team, darling.
But we do have a question.
Excellent.
Have you ever done an intuitive reading for someone and had them complain about your interpretation?
Yes, 100%. And that's okay. My feeling is that sometimes readers, especially readers who get readings, have a hard time letting go of their own attachments to the cards long enough to let, and I know I've done this before, long enough to let the reader that they have hired, whether it's through payment or energetic payment, to do the reading, to let go of my own associations, to let them tell me what the message is. And that's why I would go to another reader, is to try and get something objective, probably on something I can't be objective myself. But I've got hangups. And so I try to be compassionate towards people in that way. I try to be like, you know what? Okay, I get you're coming from a place where it's hard for you to hear another thought on this situation. And I'm sorry my reading did not resonate with you. Sometimes I've had those people come back and be like, I was a dick. Sorry. You're totally right.
Yeah. I can't stress how important it is to remember that if someone disagrees with the interpretation of your cards, that does not make you wrong, and that does not make them right. Their disagreement does not invalidate the reading.
At all. You're the one doing the reading.
I do want to throw in there, only because this came up, I was talking to a fellow reader yesterday, and we were talking about different reading styles and you know, what makes a valid reading and what doesn't. So I'm going to throw in the caveat that as long as you are reading from a place of love and not fear, as long as you're bringing in it doesn't have to be a good message. Not all good messages are light and fluffy, but a loving message as opposed to a, help me out here, Alie, a like biting, nasty.
Trying to, okay, so this is kind of a thing. I have been told that my readings are not positive sometimes. And I fight back against that because the way that I read, I try not to avoid, like, my whole idea on reading is that you're trying to improve, you're trying to engender awareness, you're trying to bring out answers, and answers aren't always, what we want them to be, and they're not always, you're doing great, champ. Like, that's why you're here, is because the answer is not, you're doing great, champ. And that can still be hard to hear, and that can still be hard to process. And especially if you have a knowledge of the cards and you see somebody else is reading for you, and it's just like, well, the Three of Cups actually means, instead of something that might be a bit more like your relationships, like something about relationships and how interpersonal stuff is going awry. Especially if somebody doesn't read reversals. That's a whole other ball of wax. But yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought there.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this isn't just this has to be another workshop.
Oh gosh.
A big topic.
That is a big question. It is a big question.
And
I have thoughts and feels.
Yeah, I don't want to say your reading is right. This is what I'm trying not to do. To tell you your reading's always right when there's a chance that you might be wrong, but not because because someone else says so. It's
right.
It's a different thing.
One thing I do want to say that I have heard others say that I take a bit of umbrage towards is the idea that the cards are always right, but I'm not always. But I don't always read them right, but they're always right. I don't like that, because I really feel like, because this is such a formal system, tarot is a really formal system that's very rigid, that has been interpreted in so many different ways, that it is the reader who is like, it's the whole, the medium is the message thing. The reader is the message. Like, those cards were put down by that reader for them to tell the story. That's why we're the readers.
Yes.
So I feel like if that's the truth, that you feel this is the truth, even sometimes if you're just like feeling insecure about it, and you're still like, you know what, I'm putting it out there because it feels right. There have been times when I've been like, this feels right, but I also don't think it is. There's a difference between the feeling and the thinking. Mm-hmm. And I've sent it out, and I've gotten amazing feedback from that. I've also gotten really negative feedback from times when I've been like, I think this is right, and I feel this is right, and then the querent has just been like, you're absolutely wrong. And it's like, at least I spoke my truth.
Yeah. Cassie says, sometimes I feel like they're resisting the nature of the situation, like if they could be in denial, and they will get to that conclusion eventually.
Yeah.
And that's
people.
Yeah, that's always going to happen. There's going to be people in denial who aren't ready to hear it, but you cannot worry about them. All you can do is worry about you.
Yep. Do the best you can, and stand behind your readings. If somebody says this is totally wrong, it's just like, the best I can say is, I'm so sorry it doesn't resonate for you.
Yeah, we really do have more to talk about on this, but
I think so.
With 1 minute before our time is up, that's
yeah. Oh, that's such a good question, Katsy. Thank you. That's meaty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now my brain's just like going. So let's go for another 20 minutes or so without any prompting.
I have pizza. I need
pizza. I also have drank a ton of tea and need to deal with the consequences of that shortly.
You are all invited to join us on the Death and Tarot Facebook group at any time.
Yes, please. I'm actually learning to use Facebook with that group, so it's fun because you get to watch me be super awkward.
Mm-hmm. We'd love to keep the discussion going if you've got more questions or more thoughts.
For sure.
I feel like I might have missed a few in here, and I'm sorry if I missed your comment or question. But
yeah, we can keep talking about pathworking in there. I mean, if we didn't answer the questions that you had about it during this time, cool. Let's talk about it. Let's keep going.
Mm-hmm. And as always, let us know if you have thoughts for new and upcoming workshops.
Yes.
We love hooray for awkward Facebook times.
Yay! Go team.
All right, and with that, we'll say good night.
Good night. Thank you so much. Mwah.
Thank you all.
Goodbye, darlings. Goodbye. Good.